Ho, 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 everybody. Welcome back to the Comic-Con Podcast, Season 2, Episode 50. We are recording this super early because we have a busy week before Christmas. And it's, of course, your boy, Nemesis Prime, hosting the show. And my man, Manimal, co-hosting the show with me. How are you, sir?
Chilling, man. Just like you said, it's Monday, trying to get started on the week, get everything ready for Christmas this weekend. And yeah, dude.
Did you know, I bet you did not know this, but did you know that this is our 100th episode?
I did not know this. Is that counting bonus stuff?
No, I don't count the bonus stuff. Oh, okay. Bonus content and reviews. Yeah, we would have hit that like middle of the year, not like the end of this year. So based on season 1 and based on...
Oh, that makes sense. 52 episodes last year, and then we're at 50 now. So yeah.
Well, we didn't do 52 because of vacations and stuff. So
that's right, we did. This year we've been on the roll. I don't think we've missed an episode this year, have we?
I don't think so. No. Well, yeah,
no, you know what?
Terrificon.
Terrificon. I don't think we did one.
Yeah, Terrificon. We didn't do one. So yeah. You're listening to our 100th episode. Who would have thought that we've been doing this for 100 episodes? And then also you add in all the bonus content that Zach and I have put out over the past 2 years, and or movie reviews with people in the community and ourselves. So,
you know, it feels like 100 episodes, but it feels so much longer ago. You and I having this fun, and before we had even started this, how many phone calls and conversations we had about like, we should do a podcast, screw the YouTube stuff. Let's move on from that. And we'd had those conversations for a long time before we actually kind of got started. We were like, no, let's just do it. Let's just do it. And to think now it's like 100 episodes, it feels like a really long time ago that we started this, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess we really could go down the history of that, right? We could.
Let's do it. Hit it.
So
we don't have a lot of news to talk about.
Yeah, I know it's tough when we're doing this right before Christmas and there's no news dropping. But we have things, folks. So don't
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Stay with us. But I guess you'll listen to this story. So yeah, I guess it was during COVID. It was 2020. I had COVID in November of 2020. Obviously, I was no longer with 3 Men in a Basement. And Zach, you were no longer with Gem. And
I was way
gone. Well, and we were both on Lords. Yeah. And we both were, you and I had a great relationship on Lords, and of course I didn't really want to get back into the YouTube thing, making videos like once a week, twice a week, right? Same with you.
Yeah, man, the YouTube thing, and don't get me wrong, and not a knock, obviously, on anyone who does the YouTube hustle, because I mean that's exactly what it is. It's just a lot to it, man, and like obviously like the recording of the videos and keeping up to date. Some people obviously with Jem, he was doing videos a day, dude. And that was part of the thing that just the whole situation got to be like not fun. That was one of the many reasons why I stopped doing that channel. But yeah, dude, the YouTube thing, it just, and both of us kind of it was funny because I think some of our conversations really revolved around the fact that like, hey, dude, we do YouTube, but we don't watch YouTube.
And we've said we've said that over the past 2 years.
I was like making videos on YouTube for almost 2 years, and I literally was probably watching no one's stuff just because I'm just not. Even to this day, the only time I watch YouTube, and you and I have talked about this a million times on the show and to each other, is I literally only watch YouTube for trailers and video game like tutorials, like to find out how to beat bosses or something like that.
When I can't beat something in God of War Ragnarok, and I ask you, and I'm just like, I don't know where to go, and I need to watch some freaking clown do it.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, this is where you need to go, and this is what you need to do. I'm like, oh my God.
And it's just in the same thing. We both had that issue where like we weren't watching YouTube because we just didn't have time. Like I don't have time to sit there and watch a video for an hour, or God, some people who 2 hours, 3 hour long videos.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hell no, man, that's not happening. But and so we talked about the format and the podcast and how it kind of it fit a little bit more into our life, like whether you're driving or at the gym and stuff like that,
Yeah.
So,
I guess this is also something that we talked about and not really going to tease this out for 2023, but, we talked about almost being like a comic book network, right? Like we talked about, instead of not only us dropping content on this channel, but like we wanted to have other people have the ability to drop content, so it would be almost like kind of like a CNN or, Fox NBC News type of thing where, other people could come on.
Maybe those are bad analogies.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just kind of, all right, well, I mean, what do you want me to do? Like,
PBS. It's safe. Or XM radio.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think of something that's like non-new. I don't know. I'm sure there's something out there, but yeah, we wanted to have like people who didn't have a channel, who didn't have a voice, and we were thinking, hey, they can drop content on here, and it would help them grow, and it would also help us at the same time. And
Right.
that was kind of our beginnings, right? That was the idea in the beginning. So,
Hmm.
not to say that in 2023 we may have that. There's a possibility.
That being said, anyone listening right now, if you ever had an interest in, making some content or getting on there and just weren't entirely sure if one, you wanted to do your own show or format your own show or the word, reach out to us. I mean, like Justin said, we're always looking for, typically we do the once a week and the
Yeah.
occasional reviews and stuff and maybe some bonus material, but we'd be completely cool with hosting other people to kind of like let you do their own show and shit. I mean, we wouldn't even be on it. You record it,
Yeah.
edit, boom, drop it.
Yeah.
So
Just
anyone
so.
wants to, tap their toes in the water, let us know.
Yeah, we'll throw it here on the podcast. Feel free to contact either of us. So yeah, I mean that's kind of how that was the plan, right? We were like, oh, we're going to do this networking thing, and then
That was kind of the plan. To be honest,
yeah, that
the
was
plan,
the plan.
there
That
was
was
that,
the
and
well,
then there
because
was just so much anger and hatred that
well, that
revolved
too.
around the plan too, originally.
But you know what it is? You and I had these illusions of grandeur. Like
Yes.
this is going to be like the next thing, and that's what everybody thinks, right? That's what everybody thinks when they think, when they start like a
Right.
YouTube channel. You think you're going to be the next person, the next thing. You're going to be, you're going to hit that like 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 subs, and then you're going to hit 1 million because there's some people out there who still think they're going to hit 1 million,
Mhm.
but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of got to have that mentality in a way, because if you don't, if you're really not like with a goal or pushing anything or trying to grow, I mean, like, what are you really doing? At the same time, I've talked about this a lot with you and with other people. Like I've said it multiple times, even if there was only 5 people listening, and I don't check the analytics that much either. So like, I'm happy to just get on here and talk comics, whether it's just with you and me, and whether anyone's listening to this or not out in the universe, like it's just fun. So, but yeah, I mean, we did start this, obviously, the comic community podcast. So we should kind of try to touch back to how we formed this, get more into the community, and maybe even touch back into that rage that we had in the beginning, the burn the world to the ground rage.
Well, see, like that's the thing here too, is that unlike YouTube, like people, we can kind of say what we want to say, and it's not like someone's gonna say, it's different than YouTube. Like people will report you on YouTube, and then you get your account gets flagged or your videos get flagged, and it's like we're just talking. It's just audio. Like, I mean, I feel like it's a little bit more of a freer platform than YouTube,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So
And
that's always a good thing.
the other thing too with YouTube, I feel like, and as you get to a certain level, then you have to, I mean, whether you want to or not, you got to at some point kind of start talking about the monetization, aspect. And don't get me wrong, money's great and extra money is always good, but it's not really something we talk about here, or like monetizing anything. I mean, we've had options to have sponsors or even to do commercials in our stuff. And, maybe that's
Mhm.
something we'll address down the line, but um, I don't know. I mean, never really was our thing, right? It was just talking comics, talking the news. And
Yeah.
that's kind of always been our thing, and being real, which I think is always the one thing that's really set us apart. If I'm, you know, tooting our own horn, I think we've always been real with everything. So
Yeah, and I mean, like like you said about the analytics, like I don't roughly, I quickly see them when I log in and I upload every week's episode, or if Zach uploads the episode. We see the lifetime and whatever. Like, but I'm not like sitting there checking out like, oh, this episode did better than this one. Like, it's
Right.
they're roughly always the same. There's a few that always trick a little bit more because, of course, depending on who we're talking about or whatever it is, like there's always a little extra go to if I'm pushing it on like a YouTube channel or on my whatnot page or something like that. But also, it's like I like the people that follow us, the people that listen to us on a weekly basis. I like those people, like the people that have, that come on board. You like those people as well. Like I would rather have a good group of people that consistently listen to us than people that don't. Right.
Right. I mean, and to be like you said with the analytics and whatnot, like looking at them, we do have a steady. Like, I mean, there is a pretty strong number that I have in my head of like I can almost know that every podcast episode is going to have this many listens from these many people. Like, it's pretty good core group, which
it's solid every week. It's you know, and
solid.
that's what's awesome. You know, like you look at YouTube and you always are like, because YouTube's different than the podcasting, and this is obviously going for people like podcasts really doesn't have followers, right? Like, I mean, like our followers on Instagram are one thing, but half the time it could be not trolls, but like shitty fake accounts, or let's just like
on YouTube,
it's different,
or
right?
giveaways, all the people who do the giveaways,
yeah, like. But like with the podcast, you know, for the people that listen to on Spotify, the people that listen on iTunes, the people that listen on other platforms, like we don't know, you know, we really don't know how many people follow us or have a subscription, like subscribe to us like that way. We just know that we get listens, and that's awesome, right? And we kind of can get an idea, like percentage wise, of like how many people listen on each platform, but there's no direct number. So, but you, like you said, you know roughly how many people listen to us on a weekly basis and how many listens our episodes get. So like it's always a consistent thing. And like with YouTube, like some people are like, well, I have 10,000 subs and I'm only getting 1,000 views, right? So you're like, all right, well, only 10% of the fucking people are watching or listening or whatever. So
yeah, I mean, fuck, dude. I mean, like the two biggest YouTubers in the comic book obviously are Tom and Jem, right? And you look at their subs to views ratio. I mean, it's horrible. It's literally horrible. Like, I think Gems are something like less than 4% of his subs watch his videos. I mean, like, what the hell, dude? Like, that's really bad. It's really, really bad. So, yeah, that's a different game, man. The YouTube thing is a different game, and I think we went the right route. So,
yeah, and it's a lot easier to edit. I'll tell you right now, and I've had this conversation with a few people that have asked me, you know, about podcasting and stuff. It literally takes me no more than 10 to 15 minutes to completely do everything. And the people that a couple of weeks ago I did a IG live. I just went online, and literally I was talking while I was editing the podcast, doing the thumbnail, uploading, and just shooting shit with people. And people saw how fast I was done. Right. So it's not like I'm spending, you know, a half hour like clipping things and adding in like, you know, pictures on screen or, you know, flashy graphics. Like it's just straight audio.
It's cut the beginning, cut the end, and the intro music, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is.
Pretty much it. So,
you know, as long as we don't have any hiccups, like someone drops their mic or something,
which sometimes happens, dude. I gotta fix this cord on my mic because it just like comes unplugged.
It happens. So, yeah, I guess that's our that's the history over the past 2 years. Yeah, like it's been fun. Like you and I have like, you know, people are. For the most part, you know, there was times where like you weren't around because you were busy with work, or I'm not around, and you know, everyone picks up the slack. You know, we have Gabe and Newbie and Juan and other people on here to help us co-host. But I think you and I are, you know, for where, you know, you're in Texas, I'm in New Jersey. The fact that we've built this friendship over the past 2 years and did this podcast, and you know, we constantly talk about books and stuff like that. Like we are readers, right? We're not like. We don't come on here and do like speculation constantly, right? That's not our game. So we're not like, we talk about this book, or, you know, like.
I think we rarely talk about spec. Like you and I talk spec like offline to each other, but like actually on the podcast, no, dude, we don't do much spec, because spec, bro. Like, I don't know. I don't want to be that channel that, and once again, I'm not like disparaging any channel, you know, I don't want to be the channel that does spec or relies on spec, because not everyone's into that. And that's a very, you know, I don't want to even say niche, because it's obviously a little bit larger than that, but that's just like it's a different game. And there's risks with that, man. When you're pushing, and you and I sell. So it's like, that's the difference too. I sell on eBay and you sell on whatnot, like a lot. And so there's a risk, man. I feel like people need to know this. And when you push spec, then obviously Tom gets a lot of blowback because he's pushing top tens. He's pushing spec, and then the dude has a mystery mailbox thing or whatever, and then he sells books on whatnot. Like, I don't know, bro. That's a very thin line of like suspect and snake oil salesman and shit like that. That like I don't ever really want to be involved in. Like, buy what you want to buy, man. And if I'm selling it, buy it from me. You know, but I'm not gonna push it on you.
True. So I guess let's move on to our next topic. Kind of, you know, typically we talk here on the community, and we haven't gotten any in a while. People out there listening, please don't be shy. Hit up our DMs, shoot an email to the comiccon@gmail.com. Send us voicemail, send us articles, comments, you know, give us something to talk about for 2023. Obviously, you know, we always have articles. We always try to find something, but, you know, we always want to hear from, you know, the males, females, guys or girls out there that are listening to us,
The peeps.
send us something. Yeah.
Safe way to say it.
The peeps. Yeah. Our, I don't know. We don't have like,
Unless people don't like to be classified as peoples.
we don't have like the YouTubeites. So like the Comic Con, the podcasters. I don't know. Like
The
something.
community.
The community. Yeah. That's what we, that's what we like. But, more recently, and this is obviously, this could go down a whole big rabbit hole, but I feel like this is something that people constantly see on Instagram is the posting when people post books and they're always complaining, or they not complaining, but people are always like, oh man, did you see this sale? It was half of last sold, or like 25% off the last sold in this grade, blah, 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 blah. Like,
right.
I don't think people realize, and I've said this a few times here on the podcast, that the prices in 2021 are not the prices in 2022. The prices in 2021 are not the prices in 2020. So I think, and the word soft market is another word that gets thrown around like on a constant basis. I don't think the market,
don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't think the market is soft. I think this is course correction. There are books out in the market that went stupid in 9/8 and mid and high grades that are now correcting themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I hate looking at books that should not be in the 2K, 3K price market that were like maybe 1K back in 2019 and 2020. But then all of a sudden, people got all this money. This is kind of like in my head, and from what I've been told and seen, the reason why the prices all went up on a lot of books is, one, crypto was big. People were making a ton of money on crypto. You had all these people that were in the stock market, had all this money from like, GameStop and all these other places. So they're like, why don't I just buy these books? Because comics has always been comics have always gone up, right?
Right. Invest in something that stays pretty solid.
Exactly. And then you also have, the fact that it's people just had money. People were given money.
Right. The government was handing out checks.
Exactly.
For not working.
But, I've spoken about this before, and, there's books like Transform.
Sorry, before you go on, and the nostalgia. There was,
yes.
I think you also have to factor in, because I do think that was something big, obviously. And we're all talking during the time period of like COVID. And so everyone's being stuck at home, and believe it or not, you're thinking about when things were better, right? So even subconsciously. So nostalgia really was setting in, and you saw it not just in comics, but collectibles across the board were kind of like all popping around that time.
And it's also like, what people have said is that there was the people that were in the card market got into this. Like all of a sudden they could see the sales in, books, right? Mm-hmm. They were like, oh, wow, like cards are tough to come by. So why don't I just money that I have saved or money that I've sold on cards, I'll get into this comic game. But like, I've spoken about this before. And I mean, you could look at GPA, you could look at cover price, like Transformers #1. Like I have a CGC 9.6. I was always looking to upgrade to a 9.8. 9.8s back in like 2019, 2020 were roughly around like $1,000. And like a 9.6 was probably like in the $400 to $500. It was like half. And I was like always thinking, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just sell this 9.6 and just put the money into a 9.8. But then all of a sudden, like 2020, like late 2021, 2000s, like all around 2021, all of a sudden a CGC 9.8 became like a 3K book. Like 2,800. Like if you look at sales, it was like 2,500, 2,800. Then it hit 3K, and I was just like, in my head, I'm like, well, I'm out. Like I'm not. There's no way that I can. And there's no reason, because there was nothing going on in the world of Transformers.
Right. If anything, Transformers has been a little soft the past 4 years, because even those later movies with the Mark Wahlberg Transformer movies were not really received very well. So it's not like they've been like a hot property.
And Bumblebee didn't come out. Bumblebee came out in 2018. So like what from like 2018 until literally maybe like a month ago when we saw that trailer for Rise of the Beast, like made Transformers like skyrocket. Like it's not like Hasbro's pushing out toys and there's just some massive overhaul in the comic world that like, oh my God, Transformers is huge again. Like,
right. Even they're leaving IDW as well. So it's almost like the negative. It's the reverse, really. You're kind of seeing Transformers prior to this Beast Wars thing coming out, that it's kind of been on the decline.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, that's kind of my rant on like the whole idea of a soft market? Like, what are your thoughts on this? What do you see? I know,
Yeah.
you and I kind of buy, like, I mean, you like to buy bigger books than I do, but
Well, so
if there's
that's
stuff
kind
that
of
you're looking for, right?
so that's I kind of what I'll talk about that too a little bit. So like I look at the market based on like kind of what the books I own, right? So the one I always use is like my litmus test, so to speak, of this time period is my X-Men 1, right? So my X-Men 1 is 6.0 and I'm looking at cover price data right now. And while you were talking, it's fucking wild. So like let's see, September of 2020, okay, a 6.0 sold for 15,600, right? Now, September 2020, March of 2021, that book jumped $10,000, sold for 25,000. Okay, so like in the time span of what 6 months, that book
Mm-hmm.
jumped 10 grand. It then went up to its highest sale at let's see, one. So January of 2022, that book sold for $33,600, and that's probably like the high sale for this book.
So
And
it's
then, yeah,
doubled from the time that you had it, right?
oh, from when I purchased it, shit,
Well,
it
no. So
tripled.
15,000, like
Oh,
in
15, yeah,
2020, yeah.
yeah,
So it
you're right,
doubled, like in a
doubled.
little over a year.
And then some fuck, dude, some poor bastard had a shit buy. And there's like this outlier, this May 1st, 2022, a 6.0 sold for $1,800.
Yeah,
So I don't
course
know.
correction.
I don't know what happened there. Well, that's a massive course correction. That was like I think that was an outlier because then in June it sold again for 30,000. But now we're looking at the most recent sale, the December 8th of this year. It was 21,000.
Yeah.
So that book, and obviously this is like obviously this is kind of can be it's multiple things, right? It's during the COVID era, all the things we talked about, Fox losing the rights and X-Men kind of reverting back to the MCU and all that is definitely going to push those books a little bit. But you're right. I mean, there is a course correction, and I think you can really see it. Honestly, like, so when you look at books, in my opinion, and I could be completely wrong here. I'm not by any means like the expert on GPA and pricing of comics, but I look at what you consider like the blue chip books, right? Is like
Uh-huh.
your big litmus test, because you're always going to have those spike books, whether it's like like you said, like Transformers, or we talked a lot about me and you offline about the Clone Wars book, or the Kanan, the Star Wars stuff. I mean, those
Mhm.
books are all hitting based off stuff that's going on in the real world, right? But those are kind of we all know those are ebbs and flows. Those are going to peak, and those are probably going to drop
Yeah.
at some point. But like the AF-15, the X-Men 1, the Fantastic Four 1, those ones, those blue chip grails, those are pretty like a good standard of like, okay, where are we going with the market? And they've all dropped. I mean, dude, AF-15 was selling massive, massive
Yeah.
prices, like insanity. And they've all kind of leveled out. I haven't seen an AF-15 sell for over like, oh, obviously dependent on the grade, but like 50K in a while.
Mhm.
They've kind of dropped even below the 50K mark, which is a little wild. So yeah, dude, I think I don't know. I think it's not a soft market. I 100% agree with you. I think people are saying it's a soft market. I don't believe. I think it's just course correction here, and you're seeing things level out. And I'm not super. I don't have all the details on this too, but I mean, you remember when like Ultimate Fallout 4, I feel like is a book that has just I don't know what's the deal with that book, man. And there was all those, it felt like those hyped up purchases online that didn't seem correct, right? Like it seemed like
Mhm.
things were shill bidded up really, really high on certain books for Ultimate Fallout 4, which in my opinion should never be receiving the prices that it's receiving on a book with that print run. So
But it's dropped because we've
it
seen
has
that.
dropped. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
dropped too.
again, it's a course correction book.
Mhm.
It's the FOMO book. I feel like that
Right.
is the
Big time.
100% the FOMO book because uh and please, if you did not listen to last week's episode with Eric July, who was an awesome interview,
Mhm.
if you have not checked out his YouTube page, he actually just dropped a video over the weekend regarding Miles Morales, and it's 100% accurate even to what sometimes I've said here on this podcast of how Miles is just not a character who sells, so they constantly need to reboot. And he goes into all the sales data on like every series,
Yeah.
and it's so funny. Like the first like official relaunch that they did for like when it went from Ultimate Fallout and then became Ultimate Comics, right?
Right.
And then it
Yeah.
became like all new Miles, like that was the first
Mhm.
like reboot of him. That number one sold less copies than Isom one.
I listened to that as well after you put me onto that
It's
video.
like
It was
that's like
really interesting.
crazy. Like,
I didn't realize how many reboots there's actually been, and we're
right?
not talking like soft reboots. There's been legit reboots. Miles has been rebooted like 4 or 5 times.
He can't hold
That's
the
wild.
title.
He's a garbage character, bro.
Yeah.
He is a garbage character. And I've never been big on his character. And then listen to Eric talk about it. I was like, fuck, you're right, dude. This is just, it's like shill bidding. It really felt like they're shilling you here and trying to sell you Miles. And he's fair about it too, because he comes back and he goes, look, he does well. And he didn't, take this away from it. He said he does extremely well, obviously, in Into the Spider-Verse and on the video game. On those mediums, he does really well. But in the comics, he does not. He's never outsold a Spider-Man title, Peter Parker Spider-Man title.
Yeah,
Never.
I loved all the sales data. So
yeah, that was awesome.
That was a phenomenal video. Speaking of Miles, let's just kind of end this topic because we are going to get into the Spider-Verse. So the main thing, I think the main takeaway that people need to know is that if you're looking for a book that you were looking for earlier in 2022 or even late 2021, just watch them. They're going down. They're being available. Like the books are becoming available to what, you can buy them for. Reasons why is because there's sellers out there that are realizing that they can no longer have the prices that they had, in 2021 and early, the whole, I guess, 2021 era. So like if a seller really wants to sell the book and, they take best offers, that's the best thing to do. You throw out best offers if they take it. If they don't, it's because maybe they bought in too high and they don't want to lose any money, which I've seen, seen that at conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's my final thoughts on this. It's definitely not a soft market. I just think it's course correction. And I think 2023 is going to be the best time to be buying books that you wanted over the past 2 years. Zach, your closing thoughts on this?
No, same. I mean, I 100% agree with you on this. I did want to say, side note on not really same topic, but we talked about it. I just, man, that Joker number 3, The Man Who Stopped Laughing, dude, I crushed on that book this past week. I got like
this
6
guy.
copies.
I've never seen you buy so many copies of a book in 1 week. Actually, I've never seen you go to a store as much or hear you go to a store as much and buy and sell as quick as you did.
Dude, I've got like 6 copies of those and I sold them like all immediately, like fast. I mean, for anywhere from $20 to $30 a book. Like
sometimes that's
great cover, dude. Great cover too.
Yeah, it's definitely an amazing cover. And I was at my local shop on Friday and he was sold out of it. But like, that's what it is. I feel like a lot of these books that show up on the cover price top 10, you literally just need, as soon as you see it, like just flip it. Like, obviously this wasn't part of our topic, but did you see, obviously that book, Donald Glover is going to play some like hypno buster or whatever from Spider-Man. So like that Spectacular Spider-Man first appearance, which I guarantee that I went through on Friday when I was at the shop. And I didn't realize that the news dropped. I probably could have bought that book for like peanuts on Friday and just flipped it because, of course, I'm sure it's going to be on Cover Price's top 10 this week.
Oh, so I could tell you what number it is right now. Well, actually, so I forgot this isn't live, so it's actually number 1 on the Cover Price list.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and the Batman or the Joker book's number 2. Half those sales are mine, probably. Yeah, baby.
Oh my God! Obviously now there's a lot of Spider-Man stuff on there, which is great because again we're going to be talking about Into the Spider-Verse, 2 Across the Spider-Verse, whatever it is. Trailer. I feel like let's get into this. So trailer dropped last week. Of course, we had planned on talking about it, but with Eric here, we didn't want to do any articles, right? He was just a great guest. Hopefully you all checked out last week's episode. If you did not, please go on to the ripperverse.com, buy Isom number 1. It's awesome. We had a great talk with him and he's a great listen to on his YouTube channel as well. So there's someone in the community that's you really have never heard about and you want the real talk, seriously, sub up, listen to him for sure. Because he's a real one. So, Miles coming back. We have a lot of stuff happening in this trailer. I'll go first. So I hated the trailer. I mean, everyone's like, oh my God, this trailer is so awesome. First of all, you spent, and I actually wrote this down, the first 53 seconds is all like a recap of the first movie. Other than him and his mom having talks and you seeing them, there's no quote unquote like new footage until like the 53-second mark where he like saves like a car that goes flying, right?
Yeah.
So like you could have taken that like 53 seconds and did so much more. But like it bothered me. But then, like, obviously the second half of the trailer is a lot awesome. We get to see a ton of Spider-Man. So yeah, that is why there's a ton of Spider-Man that were on this week's cover price top 10, because of the fact that the trailer dropped and there was, I don't know, at least 15 of them that I could ramble off right at the top of my head with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. My opinion on it's kind of the same thing my opinion was on the first movie, to be honest. And I went in the first movie not really. I don't think I saw it for a while. And then I finally did, and I very much enjoyed it. I thought it was a great movie. I never was really crazy about the animation in the first movie. I don't know how to describe it. The pixelation of it kind of bugged me a little bit, so I was always a little
Agreed.
off on that.
Yeah.
But the story was great. I really liked it. But man, I mean, I'm not like super excited about this movie. I'll watch it when I get a chance to watch it, but all the Spider Verse, the Spider Get In, all it's the same Edge of the Spider Verse, is all the same shit that I've been avoiding in the comics for like the past 6 years of Spider Man, where you just have all these spiders, spider guys. Like they're not very
Mhm.
interesting to me. It's like, hey, you check out Clown Spider, or it's just. And honestly, if you're buying these spec books, good on you, but you better be flipping them like right away. Like I hope you're not
Mhm.
holding on to the first appearance of what you call him, Disc Hypno Man, and like thinking
Yeah.
this is going to be a long term fucking buyout. Like flip that shit, because I bet you Noir Spider Man doesn't sell for very high anymore. I
Yeah.
couldn't even tell you what was that. What was his first appearance?
Spider-Man Noir 1.
Okay, I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna look it up and see what the prices are on that right now.
But like, like so in the trailer, people that you definitely see and ones that I've spoken about and I've even sold on like my whatnot. Obviously, briefly see Spider Punk. You briefly see Spider-Man India, like
Mhm.
Spider Cop, and Spider Cop was on this week's cover price top 10, which is like okay. And then another like old school was bombastic Spider Bag, right? Like
Yeah,
where
yeah.
Spider-Man wears the bag on his head helmet and or his head and like has like the FF uniform. Like, are we really buying into that? Like, I can't believe that book was even on the top 10. And I'm sure, like, if you look at the runner ups, I guarantee from like 11 to 20 is at least another five Spider-Man issues just because of that reason. Like, I know Spider Werewolf is in there.
Mhm.
Um, but the biggest one, and this is obviously something that I want to talk about, is we get to see Jessica Drew, right, or what we assume to be Jessica Drew's Spider
Right.
Woman. We talked about it earlier this year that Issa Rae is going to be voicing the character. It's a black female actress voicing the character of Jessica Drew. We think it's her, but the fact that they changed the character, and again, this is early, so I don't want to, I don't want someone to come back to me and be like, "Oh, well, it's not Jessica Drew." As of right now, it's Jessica Drew. They changed the character to be black. There is, yes, I know someone's going to be like, well, there is a black Spider Woman. Yes, there was in like the 70s. Her name was Valerie. She was a librarian and she dressed up like Spider-Man to beat the crap out of the Vulture.
Mhm.
Okay? Like, I get it. But do I really think that Valerie is the Spider Woman that was shown in this trailer? Absolutely not. So I don't know why they need to change the color of the Spider Woman's skin. Like, why do they need to do that? Like, that is Spider Woman has always been a white character, and I know we always talk about this. We're both white males talking about this, but we don't shy away from anything.
Right.
It's and you said it with Eric last year that almost the tokenization, like a black actress is now making that character become black.
Yeah, and I think it's look, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, do I give a shit about Jessica Drew Spider Woman? I don't. I really could
Well,
care
I
fucking
did
less.
list her on my short box. I
Yeah.
did list first appearance, so hopefully I could sell it real quick.
Actually, I think I have that too. I need to sell.
The Marvel
But
Spotlight or Spider Woman 1?
oh, actually, I'm thinking. Sorry, Carpenter. I was thinking of
Oh,
Carpenter.
well,
Yeah,
Julie is going to be, I think, in
Julia Carpenter.
Madam
Yeah,
Web, but I
Madam
have
Web.
the Marvel Spotlight 32
Yeah.
in a CGC 9.4. So if anybody's looking for one and it hasn't sold by the time this drops, feel free to hit me up.
So yeah, I mean, like, I don't really care, to be honest with you. But my thing is, this is you did it once, and like, okay, so and also Justin had his defenses on people can, oh well, it's there was one, and, oh well, it's a different universe. Okay, it's a different universe. Maybe it's not. Obviously, it's not 616 Jessica Drew. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so okay, cool, but I feel like in our climate, in the social climate that we have today, once you make that character like a minority and you've changed that character
Yep.
from a white person or whatever to a black person or an Asian person or LGBTQ or whatever, there's no going back, because now if you go back, you've now taken away from one of their characters, right? You've taken away from them. And
Mhm.
I think it's very dangerous to do that. Like we were talking last week with Eric, man, like just come up with new shit, man. I mean, but like this one doesn't really bug me because, like I said, it's a Spider Verse, right? There's like all these different, there's like you said, werewolf Spider-Man, bombastic Spider-Man. So it doesn't bug me, but
But here's
it
the
just
thing.
feels like
Let me just.
unnecessary.
But here's the thing. Like Spider-Gwen had like a good cult following before the movie, but then she blew up after the movie, along with like Spider-Man Noir
Right.
and Penny. But now you're going to have this Spider-Woman who you see a lot and looks pretty predominant, right? So now, like, young girls who want to follow another Spider female are now going to go out and buy the comic books and be like, she's white. She's constantly white in like every iteration. Like, you know what? Like, literally going back to like the 70s, any Spider-Woman series you've ever read up until when this movie drops, it's not her,
I
right?
get you. It's a little misleading then. Yeah.
So, like, unless they're going to change that, and, you know, again, if it happens, then they'll just, you know, they'll come up with a new series. And that's what they do with every, whether it's Marvel or DC. They always prepare you. They always drop like a new series. So, yeah, currently there's no Spider-Woman series, but that's not to say that before this movie drops, like a month or two, that they haven't announced or they haven't come up with a new Spider-Verse tie-in and they're going to introduce this character. And again, it may be a different Jessica Drew, but, you know, the trailer itself is pretty interesting, like how all the Spider-Men are fighting Miles. Like, I'm curious to think that, I wonder if they're going to introduce like Ultimatum, like the evil Miles, because like why would all of them be fighting Miles unless they knew that like Miles from another universe is bad and they think that's him.
Yeah, or maybe he's, you know, the typical trope with any kind of multiverse is, for some reason him crossing over or whatever he's doing could destroy the multiverse. You know what I mean? And maybe he's doing something to tamper with the Spider-Verse and that he could destroy it. So who knows, man? I mean, it looks good. I'm not waiting to see it, but yeah, I mean, it looks good. I'm gonna watch it for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm excited. You know, I'm excited just for Spider-Gwen. You know, that's my girl for the Spider people. Like, yeah, like Spider-Punk's in there. They did that little 5-issue miniseries, was pretty cool. Like they got people interested. So of course he's going to show up. You know, it depends on how much other these characters are. You know, obviously you see old Spider-Man from the first movie. You know, he's back. You didn't see Spider-Man Noir, so I guess Nicolas Cage is not coming back. We didn't see Penny Parker and Spider, so they may not come back. So, you know, other Spiders I feel like have to fill their shoes, because it's a 2-movie. Remember, it's 2 movies,
right? Part 1.
So that means some other people kind of have to pick up the heels. So other Spider characters are going to have to be introduced, or, you know, be in these to kind of like pick up the slack where those other Spider characters were not from the first movie. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Spider-Man 2099. I think that was that. He's kind of my favorite, and that was exciting to see at the end of the last one. So that's the character I'm probably most excited for.
Yeah, and I think was it Isaac? What's his name? Isaac, the actor who plays him.
Oh,
who plays him? The guy who played Moon Knight.
Oh, Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac. Yeah, I was going confused. So yeah, Oscar Isaac, I think he's going to do very well. I mean, that's crazy. Like, he's been Star Wars, Moon Knight, and now he's, you know, back again in Spider-Man. So yeah, he's really sticking it with the Disney stuff. So.
And X-Men. He was Apocalypse.
Oh my God, yes, you're right. So yeah, he's done it all. He's the true multiverse of the Disney world now.
Connects everything, dude. He's the main thing of fucking the Marvel universe.
Hell yeah. Oh, that's good. So yeah, the Spider-Man Across the Universe with Miles, Gwen, and the rest of the Spiders. So let's kind of move out of some TV and film into some comic book related stuff. And I feel like if you don't know, now you know, right? Over at bleedingcool.com, this is of course posted on the 19th. So this may be a little bit of old news, but interesting stuff. So Aftershock Comics files for bankruptcy, owes creators 5-figure sums.
It's crazy.
So Aftershock, of course, has had a lot of good series that they've done over the years, and we're going to kind of get into them. But some of them have been optioned. But as of the 19th, they filed for Chapter 11 protection with Central California, because right now they owe quite a bit of comic creators a lot of money, and they really don't have the money to be paying them. So the debt's declared, and we're just going to kind of a lot of people. So some of them from the artist from Chicken Devil, they owe him about 18,000. The artist from Bram Stoker's Monster Hunter about 15,000. Trying to think what else we've read. Oh, Inaka Marika, who's done We Live, which is a great series. They owe quite a bit of money on that, about 10,000. And then you get some other numbers: 8,000 for Damien Casero and Mark Ignorant for $8,600. And then there's a ton of other people that they owe quite a bit of money. San Diego Comic-Con, they owe $17,000 for San Diego Comic-Con, I guess, for having a booth for God knows how long.
It sounds like it's the majority artist though, right? Like I didn't hear any like writer names.
Yeah, well, the artists, yeah, a lot of artists. The writer for Where Starships Go to Die is 15,000, Alberto Locatelli. So, but then there's other named artists and writers that just they don't have the figures for, and there's a long list. If you go on bleedingcool.com, you could read. So, basically, my thing about this is I'm wondering what's going to happen to all these things that have been optioned or scripted, because I think the biggest one in this is We Live, right? I think that's kind of like their biggest series to date. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Zach. But
I mean, I'm not, to be honest, I don't read a ton of Aftershock.
I know you're a Chicken Devil guy.
I'm reading Chicken Devil. Yeah.
And Hot Lunch Special.
No, I didn't read that. I'm not even trying to see what We Live is.
We Live was that 5-issue miniseries, and then they did Palladiums, which was like,
oh yeah,
after like the first 4 issues, then it became like a superhero comic, like in the age of Palladians. But for me, like Aftershock, I liked it. Like my number one Aftershock book is still Animosity, where the humans, well, basically I forget what it's called, but like Awakened Day, I think it's called. All of a sudden, animals wake up, and like all of a sudden, every animal in the world can talk. Right? They can talk to humans. And then it becomes like they take revenge on the animals or on the humans, and then it becomes kind of like Planet of the Apes, but with every animal. So like it doesn't matter, bees to fish to deer to everything. So it's a great series. There's 3 different series for Animosity. There's Animosity. They also have the it's called The World of Animosity, and then there is Evolution. So I highly recommend it if you like animals and talking animals. It's pretty freaking crazy. But so you have that one, right? And then you also have things like I said, like We Live is another big one. Other titles that we've talked about here on the platform, The Phantom of the Scan, right, by Colin Bunn.
Mm-hmm.
That was another one. And I know I think you read Dogs of London.
Yeah, I did. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. It was Aftershocks. Yeah. Dogs of London.
I've read like Maniac of New York, which is pretty interesting. But like I know there's a couple other series that have been optioned, and I'm wondering now, like, are they not even going to move forward, right?
I don't know. I don't know how all that like contract stuff works, but if someone options it, right? So it's not like, let's just use Netflix for an example. If Netflix buys one of their properties, I mean, they don't owe the writer or the artist or anyone the money. It's not on them, right? They're just buying that property to make. It's like that's someone else's bill to square away. So,
but like it's kind of left with like a bad taste. Like it's almost like
yeah. I mean, maybe that's part of the deal though too. Maybe it's like, hey, look, we're gonna let our properties be optioned, and then the money we get will pay our debts. I don't know, dude. I don't know. That's wild to me. That this just seems like, one person here, one person there, but that's a lot of people that they owe money to. And some of the tweets were like, look, dude, I haven't been paid in months. And these artists, like, that's crazy to me. I mean, I can't imagine that. Like, obviously, you and I get paychecks every 2 weeks. Going like a month or 2 without like a paycheck, like after you did the work. I mean, obviously, these artists are doing lots. It's not like they're just doing that one piece, that one title.
Yeah.
But still, man, that's wild.
Yeah, and it's pretty crazy because it literally comes out of the news from last week over at Deadline. Party and Pray, which is a graphic novel from Legendary Entertainment and Aftershock Media, is in the works to become a new horror thriller. And it's scripted by Steve Orlando and Steve Fox. So like that's literally last week news. And then 4 days later, we find out that Aftershock is just filing for bankruptcy because they can't take care of their bills and pay their artists and writers. So I mean,
that's not a good look. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone to come over and do work for you when they're like, yeah, come write or come draw this book that we haven't paid these other guys for like 8 months.
Yeah. And every now and then they do put out something that's good. Like, we've talked about it here. That kaiju score was another one that dropped that was like quickly optioned. I know I enjoyed Land of the Living Dead when it first came out. It was like another title, Nuclear Family. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you and I have read, over the past 2 years that we've spoken about Aftershock. And it's just like, man, I feel bad for these people that, have to deal with this.
Yeah.
Undone by Blood. That was like I'm pretty sure that was on cover price at one point too.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. Let's see if they can right the ship, but I don't know. Who knows at this point.
So with that being said, since again, we are recording this early on the 19th of December before good old Christmas, we have not picked up our books because of course it is Monday, but I'm sure Zach has something with what are we currently reading, because we always have something new, something old. You never know what we're going to be. So Zach, why don't you lead us with what are we currently reading?
Yeah. So let's see. Let me look at what I read recently that I haven't talked about. I think the book I picked up recently was, I kind of talked about that last week, huh? Shit. Okay, so I'll tell you a book that I haven't read yet, but I'm getting ready to read and I'm pretty excited about. If you've been listening, I'm a big Coheed and Cambria fan for musical inclination, and they put out a lot of comic books. And recently, they just came out with a new series. It's called My Brother's Blood Machine from Evil Inc. Comics. And issue 1 just came in the mail today, or like earlier this week, and I haven't got around to reading it. But I'm pretty excited about that, just because I love how creative they are as a band, and like the story that they do with their music and the comics. And this one kind of follows, I believe, from what I know, more of their side project, the Prize Fighter Inferno storyline. So I'm looking forward to reading that. I'm looking at Chicken Devils right here. I read Radiant Pink, Radiant Black today, and both those were good. Nothing really to write home about. I don't know, man. I did get X Factor Volume 2 by Peter David Omnibus, which I'm excited to read as well. But yeah, man, we're kind of obviously on Monday getting all the books tomorrow, so I would have more to talk about. But yeah. You?
Yeah. Just for me, and this was a book that came out last week. I just didn't get a chance to read it, and it's on issue 3, and it was kind of a title that I wanted to wait a little bit before I got into it. But Dark Ride from Image Comics. I don't know if you've checked out this.
No, I think I know what you're talking about, but no, I haven't.
Yeah. So it's basically the synopsis. Devilland has been the world's premier horror themed amusement park for over 50 years, home to the scariest ride ever created, The Devil's Due. But when lifelong fan Owen Seasons begins his first day on the job, he will discover the true horrors happening behind the scenes, the truth about the park's reclusive creator, Arthur Dante, and that the job of his dreams might be a walking nightmare. So, the first issue was kind of like interesting. It was kind of, it's got that like Disneyland feel Disneyland, Disney World, whatever. And you kind of have this thing of like what it's like to work at like a big amusement park that's like well known. But, so basically you find out exactly like it is. Like it's not what people have known about. So, and it becomes like a huge horror thing, literally after the first issue. So, definitely very, I don't want to really get too much into it, but it's a lot of stuff is exposed. Like obviously a lot of the monsters that, exactly like Disney, like people walk around like dressed as, whatever, Minnie, Mickey,
right.
Goofy stuff like that. And like, that's what it is. Like you think these people that are dressed up in these things are people underneath, but they're really not. Like they're actually the demons like walking around, but they act like they're they're friendly, but they're really not, literally after the first issue. So, three issues in, you learn a lot from this issue, I would say. So, and they've done a lot of cool, like variant covers. They've done a lot of Disney stuff, of course, because that's kind of like the theme. But, 3 issues in, check out Dark Ride from Image Comics. I know our friends at Bird City Comics, they did have an exclusive for this one, which was the Mario Kart homage, which was really awesome. But, upcoming, I know for issue 4, there's a really cool variant that Tony Fleeks did. It's like DuckTales, like Scrooge McDuck, where he's like usually like standing in all the money, like in his like whatever.
Vault.
So it's basically like in the vault. So it's basically like the devil, like a cartoon devil, and then around him, instead of like coins, it's all these skulls. So really cool homage. I love when they do these like Disney things for this issues for these this series. So definitely check out Dark Ride. The first 3 issues are out, and you can still get them. They're all still easily available. It wasn't something that sold out, so definitely hop over to your local comic shop or go on eBay. I'm sure you can grab those couple issues.
Cool, man. And just kind of heads up for everyone. Obviously, like you said, we're recording this early, but by the time you listen to this, heads up on next week. I know some people are kind of interested in this kind of stuff. Next week's comics coming out 12/28. You're going to see the end of a couple series next week. So we'll get the last issue of Nice House on the Lake, the last issue of DC versus Vampires, the last issue of We Only Find Them When They're Dead, and the final issue of Magic Order 3, number 6. So I always like to know when issues are ending because kind of wrapping up storylines to make sure you get those last ones. But I was just looking through the list right now. So
Yep.
Oh, and I did read Plush. I meant to tell you that.
Oh yeah, what'd you think?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was kind of not a lot. I mean,
Yeah, like not a lot happens, but
but it's a good start. Yeah.
yeah.
It's just like vinyl, you know what I mean? And like, which I really enjoyed vinyl. So
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll like it. And that actually issue number 2 comes out next week as well. So
Yes. So next week, don't forget we will be doing our year-end review with all the comics. We have our categories. I think we're going to be going live on YouTube. So feel free to follow us, of course, on our YouTube channel. We'll, of course, post it early enough. And then if anybody wants to stop on by, kind of just jump in for a little bit, maybe we'll have you jump in real quick, kind of, maybe we'll throw out a category. You kind of say what you want to say about the category, and then we'll keep it moving. It's kind of like an end of the year party for the Comic-Con podcast. So if anybody is on, any of our previous guests, anybody who's live on YouTube next week, we're gonna enjoy it. So it may be a little bit of a longer episode, but we'll still, of course, post it on iTunes and Spotify if you don't catch it live.
Yeah, bring some Christmas drinks. It'll be after Christmas, and we'll have a little end of the year party, wrap up party.
Hell yeah. So that's it for us here. Season 2, episode 50, episode 100 total for the Comic-Con podcast. We appreciate everybody listening to. Again, make sure if you celebrate it, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Have a great holiday, and we will talk to you next week. Peace out, everybody.
Later.